Is Calgary still affordable in 2026? Probably seen the headlines. Prices are up, inflation's up, you're feeling it, the population's grown. More people are still moving to Calgary every year. So today, I want to break down and go over some honest numbers of what it's like to live in Calgary, what the costs are, how affordable is it really? What would you be looking at if you were to move to Calgary? Hey, I'm Ryan LeBlanc. I'm a realtor here in the Calgary area. I help families buy and sell and plan for their next move or investment in ways that are going to help them build that long-term wealth and security through real estate. All right, so here's 5 reasons why people are moving to Calgary in 2026. Reason number 1. All right, let's start with the big one, home prices. We all know the prices, we see it in the headlines too. Calgary versus Vancouver versus Toronto. There's a big difference there. I'm going to look at one comparable here at Surrey, BC. Now, the reason I picked Surrey is because the average family income, household income, is about the same, very comparable to what Calgary is. It's about $100,000 for a family income according to Statistics Canada. So we're going to go with that. Now, in Surrey, you've got your average benchmark price for a detached home is sitting at $1.4 million. Compare that to Calgary, benchmark price for the detached, you're going to be at $733,000. So right there, you got a pretty big disparity between the two. But let's talk about your monthly costs on what that looks like. So rounding that 733 up to an even 750 for some easier math, $750,000 home. You've got, look, we're going to work with a 10% down payment and a 4% interest rate across these, okay? Apples to apples comparison. Now, Calgary detached, that's going to run you at a monthly cost with the mortgage for $3,212 a month. That $1.4 million home in Surrey, that's going to run you up at about $6,920 a month. So with that, you're looking at a difference of $3,708 a month less for that detached home in Calgary with a 10% down payment. Looking at apartments, benchmark price for Surrey apartments is looking to be at $509,000. Compare that over to Calgary, $309,000 for the benchmark price on an apartment. Your monthly cost just for the mortgage payment is going to be on the Surrey property is going to be $2,500 and change, $2,514. So in the Calgary, you're going to be just over $1,500 a month and change. So you're $1,526 a month for the apartment in Calgary. Now, so you're looking at a difference of just under $1,000, $988 a month difference for the Calgary apartment versus Surrey apartment. That's right there. I mean, the biggest reason why people are choosing Calgary and have been looking at Calgary is the affordability of the houses. Housing is not the only part of the equation that matters. Let's talk about the real monthly costs here. Utilities matter. It costs a lot of money to run a house, less so to run an apartment, but you want to factor some of these factors in. And a typical household in Alberta is going to use about 120 gigajoules of gas. But with an average rate of $3 a gigajoule, you're looking at about $30 a month for gas costs. But that's not what your bill's going to be, because now you got to add on the fees, the distribution charges, and all that. An average bill that we see here in Calgary is going to be about $100 a month. So electricity, you're going to be seeing about 8 to 12 cents per kilowatt hour. Your typical house is going to use about 600 kilowatt hours per month. So translating that over to what your monthly cost is, $60 a month worth of electricity, add on distribution charges and other fees, that becomes easily $150 a month in electricity costs. Then you got city utility bill. That's going to look after your water usage, wastewater treatment, and waste services, and all your bins, your blue bin, green bin, black bin for your waste recycling compost. Those services, that bill is going to come in about $100 to $150 for an average family. And of course, that's very much based on your water usage. So that's going to come up and down in the summertime when you're doing some outdoor watering, that sort of stuff, right? Insurance costs. Now, this is a big one. It's not equal across the city. Keep that in mind. There is no standard for it. There's a lot of factors that come into it. And one of the factors that we have seen the premiums increase substantially is from areas that have been hit with hail big hailstorms. There's some areas of Calgary and around Calgary that are more prone to these hailstorms. They're going to have higher premiums. Some areas are maybe more prone to flooding. They're going to have higher premiums. Same with if you want to live out in the country, um, particularly west of the city where it's heavily treed. Now you've got fire risk. That's going to have a higher premium. So what I actually do with my clients is when we're purchasing a home during the conditional period, is we end up always I always make sure that they are able to get a solid insurance quote on their house before we remove our conditions, because we want to know that there's no surprises going into a house that we think is maybe going to cost them 3 or 4 thousand a month, 3 or 4 thousand a year in insurance costs, and it ends up being 7,000, right? Like that's a big difference. So that's something we always look at during the condition period. But that is something you need to be aware of. Where you live is going to have an impact on your insurance costs. On average, we're looking at a wide range, 1,500 a year to 7,000 a year or more if you're in some areas in the country in a heavily treed area. I mean, I've seen some up to $12,000 a year in for a nice big piece of property that's got lots of trees on it, right? But after all that, there's one major offset that Alberta is very privileged to have, and that is the fact that Alberta is the only province in Canada to have no provincial sales tax, right? You're only paying the 5% GST, and that's it. Now, that alone is going to save families 6 to 10% on almost everything that they buy over the course of the year when you compare that to anywhere else in Canada. And that really adds up in a big way. Reason number 3, it's hard to afford anything if you don't have a job. So how does the Calgary's job market really look? Well, like most of Canada, the unemployment rate is gone up in recent years here. We're sitting right now at, last checked, 6.5%, consistent with the Canadian standard right now. And that is expected to remain in that range for most of 2026. The difference, though, is that Calgary's economy is actually expected to grow at a faster rate than the rest of the country in 2026. And according to Calgary Economic Development, it expects that Calgary's economy is going to expand by 2.4% in the new year. So then that actually sits at nearly double the national average, which is 1.3%. So we got significant growth when you compare it to the rest of this country. And what is fueling this increase? Well, it's not an oil boom this time. Calgary used to be seen as the oil and gas city only. And while that's still such a main pillar of Alberta's economy, many other sectors have really grown significantly to contribute to the bottom line in some pretty big ways. In 2026, Calgary's economy is far more diversified. Let's take a look at, for example, the aviation and aerospace industry. This is one really growing sector to note. The revenues that they're expecting in this industry are going to exceed $4.7 billion by 2030. That's the expectation. With major companies like WestJet and de Havilland, both are committed to pretty big, significant investments right here in the city. And what that translates to is a lot of jobs, both in the building process and then in the maintaining afterwards, right? Running these facilities. And we've already seen an increase of over 60% employment in the aerospace industry. We got programs like SAIT and Mount Royal University. They've seen huge enrollments surging, with new campuses even being opened up to support that surge in demand. Now, what about the tech space? Employment has also grown here by over 60% in the past few years. Calgary is really positioning itself to be that tech hub for Western Canada. And with the data center expansions and new startups coming on, not to mention the innovation towards clean energy. I mean, these are just two big ones. But we also need to think about the agricultural, food processing, that massive industry in Alberta. Logistics and distribution, think Amazon distribution centers, healthcare and education, construction and trades. I mean, every time something's booming, the construction and trades, they follow suit, right? They're the ones making it happen. And Alberta is actually leading the country in new home construction. Now, reason number 4, and this is where Calgary really shines. For families, Calgary offers well-planned communities. Calgary has one of the best road networks in Canada for a major city. No, it's not perfect, but we do have a full ring road, and the planned growth that really means for less congestion, shorter commutes, and easier citywide travel throughout the whole city. Uh, Best, particularly when you compare that to Toronto and Vancouver, Montreal. I mean, myself, I usually budget myself about 30 minutes of time to get almost anywhere in the city. That's a general rule. 30 minutes will get me pretty much anywhere. And you can't say that for a lot of the other big cities in Canada. From recreation centers, sports programs, and over 1,300 kilometers of paved and maintained pathways. That means in the wintertime, snow's being cleared from these pathways so that they're usable. You don't have to travel far. You can get out of your house and hit some pathways, whether that's running, cycling, walking, whatever you're doing, right? It gives that ability to be active without having to go very far. It's right out your back door. And you can live in a community where kids can walk into school. You've got parks that are built into the neighborhoods, and you're not spending hours a day commuting when you're surrounded by beautiful places like Fish Creek Park, and the Bow River pathways. They really make the life more enjoyable without having to cost more by traveling and commuting to other areas, right? Everything is so accessible right here. And that I think is super valuable. When you're talking affordability about living, I mean, affordability comes down to what's it cost for you to enjoy your life too. Even with all of that accessible, the mountains are still just an hour away. So if you want to go out to the mountains, they're right there at the back door. So for many families, Calgary's not just affordable, it's actually livable, especially for active families. Reason number 5. Now, one big advantage for families in Calgary right now is that childcare is somewhat more affordable. Alberta has rolled out the flat rate government supported fee structure for licensed daycares, preschools, and your after school care. Now, this means that families are going to be paying around $15 a day for full-time care, which is, a huge shift from the traditional $900 to $1,500 a month that it used to cost. And I mean, I can speak to that myself. When my kids were younger, that was the range we were looking at if we needed childcare, and it was like that for a long time. The availability obviously is going to vary in this, depending on what neighborhood you're in and the age group that you're looking for. But from a cost perspective, Calgary's now in line with the affordable childcare options. So is Calgary still affordable in 2026? Well, yes, it's more expensive than it used to be, but compared to many other cities like Vancouver, Toronto, Calgary still offers more home for your money, lower overall cost of living, strong job opportunities, and a lifestyle that actually supports active families. For a lot of people, that balance is really hard to beat. If you're thinking of moving to Calgary, or you're thinking about upsizing, right sizing, or you're just trying to understand what's realistic for your budget, I'm happy to help. Check the links below for my calendar link. You can book a call with me, or you can just reach out to me directly by email or phone. Those details are going to be right below. Thanks for watching, and I hope I see you in the next video.